Even the horses know something's up. There is a feeling of energy, pre-show jitters and tension as these cowboys prepare to win a little money and maybe a little glory. It happens every year, the Super Bowl of rodeo. There's a lot on the line.
I don't feel any pressure. I just feel excitement right now. I'm just getting ready for the rodeo to start, and I really feel good about it.
Right now, everybody's coming in and rolled in here to the finals, and everybody's getting, ready, and there's a lot of emotion in the air and the atmosphere of feelings, Personally, I try to get, try to stay at ease and pretty cool. The closer I get till it starts, I try to build myself up to hope that I can do my best when it starts tomorrow night.
There is one more night of rest before the big day, a little time to talk about last year and make predictions about this year. And there's one more day to prepare for that roaring crowd that will jam this place tomorrow.
Personally, I try to get, try to stay at ease and pretty cool. The closer I get till it starts, I try to build myself up to hope that I can do my best when it starts tomorrow night.
Devastating might not be too far off. I think maybe not from an economic sense necessarily, although it would certainly impact our sales, our restaurant sales, and I'm sure the motel people feel the same way. But the idea, I think it really is an attitudinal thing as much as anything. Our restaurant people, employees, really get hyped up for it. It's a big deal.
The discovery of asbestos in the ceilings at John Marshall is proving to be an embarrassment for health officials. And before it's over, it may prove to be as expensive as it is embarrassing. Now the school board will have to pay thousands to clean up John Marshall. And thousands more will have to be spent to re-inspect the rest of the schools in the county for asbestos. And it's all caused because a health official did an inadequate survey of John Marshall 4 years ago. But the problems for health officials don't end there. Today at the City County Health Department, officials were reviewing the asbestos inspection sheets for all county schools. But there's a new problem. Approximately half of the inspection sheets are missing, including the one for John Marshall. And that makes it nearly impossible to find out who is responsible for the John Marshall foul-up or where other problems may be.
I have no explanation as to why some of them are here and some of them aren't. It looks like about half the files on the actual inspections may be missing. We've looked and we can't find them. And among those is any inspection that may have been done on John Marshall High School. So I can't at this point even say that it was really inspected.
But the paperwork that is available indicates there was an inspection of John Marshall, but that it was incomplete at best. This document shows a laboratory analysis was done at John Marshall, but in a different part of the school. No lab analysis was done for the 8 rooms found to be contaminated yesterday. And so on the final master list 4 years ago that was supposed to indicate schools with asbestos problems, health officials gave John Marshall a clean bill of health. Oklahoma City school officials said today they don't know where they'll get the money to pay for the asbestos cleanup here at John Marshall. If the asbestos here had been detected 4 years ago, like it was supposed to be, there would have been special state funds to pay for that cleanup. Those monies are gone now, making this a very expensive mistake. Eufaula News 4, John Marshall High School.
teachers feel that they have a need to be able to work in their classrooms. They're autonomous. We have to be able to help on classroom size, what goes on with the school system, calendar, that kind of thing. And those are the kinds of rights they're wanting to take away from us.
Car accelerated, actually hit the officer in the leg, may have a broken leg, we don't know for sure. The officer shot at the car 4 times, we believe. One of those shots at least hit the driver of that car. I understand that the driver of the car was dead at the scene. 3 other suspects have been taken into custody. I believe 1 suspect may have escaped.
They come in, I wish you could see it. Mop it, spray it. It is. I'm telling you, even beforehand, your exposure is minimal.
I don't condone it. Policies, and that I've explained to them a proper procedure for airing their concerns. We are planning to have an assembly of the entire student body within the next couple of days as test results are made available, so that we can give all the information that we have to the student body so that they can be informed.
Okay, do you think that part of their worry over this problem comes?
When Mr. Pickens and his group made their announcement, I think the best way to describe it is that we were prepared, because a couple of years ago we put together a management team to have all of the things in place so that if something like this happened, we were not scrambling around trying to figure out what should be done, who should do it, and how it should be done. We would already know.
Eufaula, Oklahoma, the home of the Fountainhead State Lodge. This is one of the 7 resorts owned and operated by the state of Oklahoma. But lately, the grounds have been empty. Business very slow. Few people are checking into the lodges now. State officials don't know why, but they do know that with business declining, there's little they can do. Rather than keep the resorts going with few customers, the state has opted to close the lodges until times are better.
At this point, we don't have enough business booked to justify keeping the lodges open through these winter months.
Geneva Kennedy has worked at Fountainhead ever since the lodge opened some 18 years ago. Come next Sunday, she'll be laid off along with 300 other employees.
It's kind of a nervous feeling, you know, not ever being out of work, but I have some annual time and probably get on unemployment.
While others are collecting unemployment, a skeleton crew will be kept here. State officials say that will give them time to clean up the lodges. Resorts like Fountainhead have not made much money for the state. Many of them barely break even. Fountainhead Lodge was built mainly to help eastern Oklahoma, an area traditionally with the highest unemployment rate in the state. And now state officials want to sell Fountainhead and nearby Arrowhead lodges. Employees feel that with the lodges up for sale and with the resorts closing down, their future and the future of the lodges is uncertain.
good to have one. Because if she wouldn't have heard it, we would have been up in there.
Sound like that smoke detector might have saved some lives.
It did, yes, it did. It saved our life, yes. And I'm thankful for that.
One of the officers begged him several times to put the gun down, put the gun down. The man did not heed that warning, actually lifted the gun up toward the direction of the officer. Don't know if he actually pointed it directly at the officer or not, but he did lift the gun up in the officer's direction. The officer that he did that to shot 2 times, hit the man in the abdomen and in the neck, upper neck or lower jaw area.
The hearing tomorrow follows charges that Tinker is doing a poor job of handling the hazardous waste generated at the base. Waste that range from oil and paints to extremely toxic or even cancer-causing materials. And the major concern among state and federal officials is that these chemicals may end up contaminating nearby drinking water supplies. Several creeks run through or nearby Tinker, and state water officials charge some Tinker chemicals are finding their way to these waters, as well as to the underground Garber-Wellington Aquifer located directly underneath the base. One of the most critical reports was delivered this summer by the State Water Resources Board. It charged Tinker with dozens of discharge violations and said the base had major problems, including toxic material discharges, current and past spill events, and improper storage of hazardous and toxic materials. The report also criticizes the handling of spills, saying response time often stretches into months or years. One problem area cited is Building 3001, the one that caught fire just weeks ago. The report cited 116 discharge connections to storm drains that were not approved, and some officials fear the fire there may have resulted in additional pollution.
We were told that over 2 million gallons of water were placed upon Building 3001 in putting out the fire, and we're going to be asking some questions tomorrow with respect to the impact of that water and the use of hazardous waste in that building and the impact it might have on groundwater.
Tinker officials declined an interview today, but have said in the past that their problems are not as serious or as large as the Water Board report says they are. Jeff Fowler, News 4.
You might be able to say that we were just a little bit too late with that proposal, and had we made that proposal and made that stadium a reality within the last couple of years, that the outcome might have been different. It ought to be the sort of spur that the community needs to take stock of itself and recognize that it needs to do these kinds of things if it wants to compete in the large city market these days.
Oil and lubricants are included in the Air Force program.
Simply because it's a federal waste versus a private waste. 434, I believe, that have been in the Superfund legislation does not cover this situation.
The information which the subcommittee has gathered through its investigation indicates that there are some problems at Tinker involving both past and present hazardous waste disposal practices. And appreciates the economic benefits resulting from their proximity to Tinker.
It is recognized that work remains to be done here at Tinker and across the command. However, we believe that solid programs are underway and we look for continued rapid improvement during this fiscal year and in the future.
Not all the ropes have been silenced in Oklahoma. There is still a group of cowboys who will be competing championship style right here in Oklahoma next year, despite the pullout by the NFR. They will be thrilling rodeo fans with their lariats. This is the Lazy E Ranch Arena, just southeast of Guthrie. The steer roping championships are held here and will continue here, even though the rest of the rodeo is headed for Las Vegas. The arena is more than ready, even though workmen are still putting on the finishing touches. Oklahoma City's loss may be the Lazy E's gain. Officials here are quick to point out they did not want to see the NFR leave Oklahoma, but at the same time they now know they are the only game in town.
We think that with it leaving, that we have the availability of making this thing even a bigger attraction in Oklahoma. Again, we don't think they made the right decision, but they made the decision, and we've got to go on and do our thing and try to make it as a big event as we can.
The traditional horse and cowboy events aren't the only attractions the Lazy E will be offering. Officials here are already bringing Tanya Tucker in and are now eyeing other possibilities like a Superstars rodeo competition in February. Most of the NFR is gone, but the steer roping is still an Okie event, and the Lazy E will be the hot spot next December. Kevin Ogle, News 4, near Guthrie.
One witness described the aftermath as a horror story. What happened inside is still sketchy. A lone gunman, a white male about 25 years old, walked into the First Bank of Chattanooga in Geronimo, robbed the bank. There was violence and victims, and then came the discoveries.
I walked down the hall and I just saw a room full of people laying on the floor.
And did you summon the police?
Yes, I did. Yes, I got help because I knew they'd been shot.
And walked in and couldn't see anybody in the bank. And we looked down the hallway and I see some feet laying in the hallway and I could smell gunpowder real bad. And went back in there and looked and there's bodies laying all over in this back room. And the baby was crying. And so the guy picked the baby up and handed me the baby and told me to get the baby out of there.
The final count, 4 dead and 3 injured. The FBI and other southern Oklahoma lawmen are still combing the area around Lawton and the Texas-Oklahoma border. The Oklahoma Bankers Association has offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and capture of the suspect. In Geronimo, Dan Slocum, News 4.
And I'm hoping that I can get in there.
Well, sure, you'll be able
That's
to
enough.
Yes, it really would be.
Things that they've been able to do in the last
Yes.
5 or 10 years.
Yes.
You know, 10 years ago, Mr. Granger seems to have a great attitude about
Yes.
this. That positive attitude, that's
We're
what.
real confident that, and that will be the same place that Terry and her,
Are your children going to get a chance to go out there with you? Or?
Well, I just got tired of suffering. And I thought a year ago I was in here and I got out for a year and I thought maybe I might get out for another year, but I didn't. I was out during the Thanksgiving holidays and I just continued to get worse and worse. So when I came back in, after then I made up my mind to go up there.
We're not going to be rushing into something,
hurriedly manner, and it'll be a few months before we get to trial. And I feel by that time that if the judges feel that we can't give the defendants a fair trial in this county, they'll move it to another county.
I think the sheriff continues to show good faith in his attempts to comply with the standards. A little more time apparently is going to be needed. Therefore, with respect to your earlier request in this hearing for a continuance, this matter is continued until January 30, 1985 at 10 o'clock a.m.
In October, the State Health Department petitioned Judge Kenneth Love to close the McClain County Jail. The facility is old. It does not meet state standards. This is the third time the judge has given the sheriff another chance to put his lockup in order. Judge Love went upstairs to check out the jail for himself. He was impressed with Sheriff Don Smith's attempt to bring the 40-year-old facility within state standards. Even the State Health Department officials agree with the judge's decision to allow more time.
We didn't really want to close the facility. We just wanted the facility to come into compliance and do what it needed to do. And they're making good progress to doing that.
Sheriff Smith has put a lot of his own time and money into repairing this old jail. The plumbing has been fixed, and all of the cells have a fresh coat of paint.
The cosmetic improvements are noticeable, but this jail still doesn't have a fire escape. The sheriff says one will be in place by January 1st, but if there's a fire before then, the health inspector says prisoners will just have to do what they've been doing for 40 years here in McClain County, hope and pray that no one gets hurt. In Purcell, Kurt Autry, News 4.
A decade ago, the city of Chicago, the state of Illinois were in financial straits. State revenues were down, but state services were all asking for more money. Illinois officials had a choice: raise more taxes or approve a state lottery. The game of chance came up the big winner.
The lottery has produced in just 9 years somewhere in the neighborhood of $860 million for the state's treasury, which would have had to come from taxation, or services would have had to come back.
Healthcare centers were among the services benefiting the most from the nearly $250,000 the lottery netted last year. And so were public schools. The lottery is a growing success in Illinois. Just ask a few of the 68 people the state made millionaires.
I think it's a good way for a poor man to take a chance to try to get rich.
Yeah, I think it's a real good deal. But you got to buy them to win.
So will the lottery help Oklahoma like it did the state of Illinois? To find out, the legislature and the people of Oklahoma must be willing to take a chance. Stephanie Frederick, News 4. Randy Parrish has been a state employee for 11 years, but for the past 3 years she has not had a pay raise. Most of her co-workers have quit their state jobs for better paying positions elsewhere. Randy is now looking for greener pastures.
And hug them when you go out. Good idea, James.
Nancy O'Donnell is Oklahoma's Teacher of the Year. She too may be leaving soon because of possible budget cuts in the state's educational system. O'Donnell, like many Oklahoma teachers, has not seen a pay hike in 2 years. Today, Governor Nye says enough is enough. He's asking the Oklahoma legislature to boost the salaries of teachers and state employees by 6% next year.
If we're serious about economic development, we must be serious about the quality of teaching. We must be serious about the quality of programs. If we're serious about running state government like a business, we must be serious about the employees that we have.
The raise gives the average Oklahoma teacher a $1,000 increase. For state employees, the pay raise would vary. The package would cost Oklahoma $140 million a year. And despite the state's financial troubles, the governor says the pay increase is possible. That's if the legislature makes last year's temporary sales tax a permanent one. But what happens if the legislature doesn't vote to extend the penny sales tax increase? The governor says the answer to that question is simple. Teachers and state employees can forget about the pay raise. At the state capitol, Stephanie Frederick, News 4.
If you walk into any bar this afternoon and order one drink, chances are the bartender will return with at least two. It's called happy hour, and almost every pub in town uses this gimmick to bring in the big crowds. But now some state lawmakers would like to see this practice end.
People have a tendency to maybe go out to have one drink, and then they end up in a place that offers 2 or 3 for one, and they end up drinking a lot more than what they should, or think they can adequately drive and operate vehicles. So we want to try and do something in the drunk driving area, and also to preserve and protect the gross receipts tax collections.
An anti-happy hour bill is a measure you'd expect most tavern owners to oppose, but that's not the case.
They order a drink, you're going to give them 3, they're surely going to drink it, and naturally they're going to leave in their car, be out on the streets, and that's a responsibility we don't really need or want.
The Oklahoma happy hour proposal is patterned after a Massachusetts law banning the 2-for-1 practice. The Massachusetts measure is new, but lawmakers there say it works. Mothers Against Drunk Drivers will lobby our legislature to pass that same bill, hopefully with the same results. Kurt Autry, News 4.
Boone Pickens may have done what he started out to do all along. He doesn't have control of Phillips Petroleum, but his company, Mesa Petroleum, came away with $89 million profit. Pickens denied accusations Mesa profited from the agreement at the expense of Phillips stockholders. The real winner may have been the town of Bartlesville. Phillips is the largest employer here. Over 7,700 people work for the company. The news of the agreement was a welcome relief.
You didn't know what your future was going to be around here.
And now?
Oh, we've got a good future now, at least for 15 more years.
Everyone's been tense, but we felt like all along that we beat them. We did.
Others felt the whole controversy was a way for Pickens to pad his wallet.
Oh, I think old Pickens did a pretty good job at making a lot of money.
The agreement means neither company will attempt to acquire control of the other for at least 15 years. Kevin Ogle, News 4 in Bartlesville.